Chapter 3088. Chen Zhao called this flame the primordial flame. This flame couldn't create a demon king. It just instinctively created and fused all kinds of demon bloodlines. Then it created new demons. Chen Zhao realized that his hair was falling out. It was replaced by a head of white hair. Chen Zhao rubbed his head with a bitter smile. It seemed like he would have to dye his hair when he got out. Chen Zhao knew the changes in his body like the back of his hand. Even at his level, it was impossible. He could clearly feel every change in his body. Even if it was a cell disease, Chen Zhao could notice it. This was also why diseases couldn't attack Chen Zhao anymore. What was supernatural? First, it was power that surpassed nature. One's body was also a part of nature. One's body was the most difficult part to defeat. Right now Chen Zhao had done exactly that. Chen Zhao absorbed the flame into his body again, and then expelled it. However, the bloodlines of Gluttony and King of Wrath were extremely high-level bloodlines. So there wasn't much in the flame that could make up for the genetic factors of these two bloodlines. This flame was more about fusion. It helped Chen Zhao better fuse the two bloodlines. This flame could record genetic factors and help people fuse bloodlines. It was like a fusion machine. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of a question. Could he add God's blood? He had a lot of God's blood. Chen Zhao took out a drop of God's blood and dripped it on the flame. At the same time, he swallowed another drop. Then he absorbed the God's blood again. It worked. When the flame flowed in his body, the God's blood in his stomach seemed to be activated too. It fused into Chen Zhao's bloodline. A very slight change. It might not even be 1 in 10,000. It was even thinner than Haley's bloodline, which had been separated by 30 or 40 generations. One reason was that Chen Zhao's bloodline was already strong enough. Other than fusion, this flame could also be used as an optimization program. It could write more outstanding factors into the bloodline. Chen Zhao tasted more God's blood, but most of it didn't change him at all. After all, a lot of God's blood was repeated. Plus, the God's bloodline wasn't very helpful to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao used more than 10 portions of God's blood from different deities. In the end, he increased the God's blood from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,000. It was still very thin. Chen Zhao took out a piece of flesh. Hercules' flesh. This was the first time Chen Zhao had killed a god. Although he was only a demigod, Heracles still possessed power that surpassed most gods. Back then, Chen Zhao had destroyed Hercules. However, Chen Zhao still thought that the flesh of a god was good stuff. He had collected a lot of Hercules' flesh. Now it came in handy. Chen Zhao ate a small piece of Hercules' flesh. Then he inhaled the flames. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt a very, very special way of using power. This method of using the bloodline to activate the body and use power. This method could turn the muscles and skin into steel. And it could also be rearranged to form a stronger body. As expected of the god of strength, he was similar to Chen Zhao. They both walked the path of strength. But the two had completely different ways of using power. This was originally an ability unique to Hercules. But now it was Chen Zhao's. Chen Zhao felt that he had a small breakthrough again. Originally, the primordial regression technique was only at the 4th level. But now, he could open up to the 5th level. This was because he had grasped Titan's method of using power and integrated it into his own system. Chen Zhao tried to load this mode. His muscles wriggled quickly. His body didn't change. But Chen Zhao felt that his basic constitution had increased by leaps and bounds. In Chen Zhao's eyes, the primordial flame was a huge treasure. No divine artifact or treasure in the world could compare to the primordial flame. Now Chen Zhao understood. The 12th level wasn't about fighting, but understanding. Only by completely understanding this level could he pass the 12th level. But Chen Zhao still couldn't understand it completely. So Chen Zhao didn't pass. He needed to study it for a long time. He couldn't completely understand it after 1 or 2 times. When Chen Zhao walked out of the Tower of Trials, the people nearby thought that he was a stranger when they saw the white-haired Chen Zhao. Only when they got close did they realize that it was Chen Zhao. "President, are you planning to change your style? But white hair really doesn't suit you." As an experienced hair dye enthusiast, Morit had tried almost all kinds of hair colors, including green. Chen Zhao glared at Morit. "I'm going back to black." President, how about I recommend you a barber? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. It was just hair dye. Why the hell did he recommend a barber? President, it's a magic barber. How's he different from a regular barber? Can he set off fireworks on my hair? Not really. He can use his magic to control the length of the customer's hair. If that's the case, I can do it too. I don't need anyone else. Chen Zhao still liked a crew cut, mainly because as an enhancer, he almost always fought hand-to-hand with his enemies. He was afraid that one day someone would pull his hair. It wouldn't affect the outcome, but in the end there would still be this worry. Fine, pretend I didn't say anything. Mord shrugged. Chen Zhao left the supernatural organization's headquarters directly. He found a high-end barber in the city. Help me dye my hair black. Thank you. A young and pretty female barber came up. In fact, this barber was high-end, because almost all of them were pretty girls. Sir, do you need to do a treatment first? Dyeing your hair is really bad. No matter where, barbers seem to like to promote themselves. No matter where, barbers like to promote themselves. How long? Half an hour. Chen Zhao checked the time. Okay. Chen Zhao lay down on the bed. The pretty barber massaged his head. She bent down and whispered into Chen Zhao's ear. Sir, we have more services here. Thank you, but no need. In the United States, there were a lot of businesses that sold dog meat under sheep's skin. Beauty salons, gyms, or food bars. But these places were all high-end. Even if they didn't need special services, they still had to pay a lot. Moreover, the staff didn't work for just anyone. From the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chen Zhao could see the people in the parking lot. Therefore, they could clearly see what kind of cars the customers who came here were driving, and thus determine how much money they could get from the customers. Clearly, Chen Zhao's car tempted them. Sir, I know many positions, and I can... Chen Zhao took out a few $100 bills from somewhere. Wake me up in half an hour. I'm going to sleep. Yes, sir. The hairdresser's face lit up with joy. Chapter 3089. Chen Zhao was pushed awake, but he realized that he wasn't in a hairdresser's shop. Instead, he was in an underground tunnel with a few leather bags tied to him. It was the beautiful hairdresser from before who pushed Chen Zhao. Miss, isn't the service in your shop a bit too rich? Sir, do you not understand your current situation? Or do you already understand and still have the courage to talk to me like this? Fine. Do you want money or your life? Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at the beautiful hairdresser. The hairdresser pushed Chen Zhao into an underground room. There were two people there. They wore white coats and covered their faces with masks. You have two choices now. Call your family and pay a ransom, or we can sell your organs for money. The two men lifted Chen Zhao's shirt and moved their scalpels around Chen Zhao's stomach. When the bone-chilling scalpels touched his skin, one's hair would stand on end. Of course, Chen Zhao was an exception. Can I have a mirror? Chen Zhao asked. Mirror? The three people in the basement were confused. What mirror? I'm here to dye my hair. I want to know how it's done. Haha. The two men in white coats laughed out loud. If it's hair, I can shave off all your white hair. That way, you won't have to worry about it. Just then, a drop of water dripped from the basement and landed on one of the men's face. Fuck, how come it's seeping? Of course. This is an underground sewer. How can you expect the environment here to be good? I heard that someone died here before. The two men discussed as if no one else was around. Hey, let's get down to business, the beautiful woman called. All right. Kid, what do you think? Do you want money or your life? Give me a mirror first. I want to know if I dyed my hair. Fuck. The three all looked unlucky. This guy was so troublesome. The beautiful woman took out a mirror. Look, it's done. She decided that after she got the money, she would shave off all of Chen Zhao's hair. Another drop of cold liquid landed on the man's face. Fuck. The man looked up, and his expression changed. Lot. What are you doing? Saxy, don't bother me. Hurry up and make your choice. Lot. Head. At this moment, a lump of rotten flesh fell from above, directly enveloping Lot. Wow. What is this? The rotten flesh began to seep into Lot's mouth, nose, and ears. Cough. Hurry up and get rid of this thing. It's too disgusting. But Sax and the beautiful woman couldn't help but take a step back. Because they could see that the rotten meat was alive. Hurry! Hurry up and help me. I'm in so much pain. Lot was wrapped up by the rotten flesh, and could not get up. Furthermore, the skin that came into contact with the rotten meat was rapidly swelling and blistering. Lot struggled, and pulled over the bed with Chen Zhao tied to it. Chen Zhao also stood up and stretched his limbs. He turned a blind eye to what was happening around him. It was as if it was an ordinary thing. Save me! Save me! Lot saw that his companion was ignoring him. He could only pray that Chen Zhao could save him. Chen Zhao squatted down, and used his finger to pick up the rotten flesh. He glanced at Lot, who was buried underneath. Then he shook his head. You can't be saved. This thing has already entered your body. Even God can't save you. Soon, your body will become a part of it. You're not afraid of this. The beautiful woman looked at Chen Zhao in fear. This thing, a living rotten corpse. It should be someone who died in this sewer. After the corpse rotted, a spirit took over. In the end, the spirit was also corroded by the corpse and became like this. Chen Zhao waved his nose. This smell is really strong. The two hiding in the corner wanted to go around the wall and escape. However, the zombie seemed to be aware of their plan. It suddenly stretched out a few rotting strips of flesh like a spider web, blocking the exit. The living rotten corpse seemed to know that Chen Zhao was not easy to deal with, so it did not intend to attack him at all. Lot, who was wrapped up by the living rotten corpse, was already silent. He was not dead yet, but his body had lost its function. This only made him feel more pain. Chen Zhao did not plan to help him. This had nothing to do with him anyway. Just then, the beautiful woman's pupils suddenly contracted. Because a shadow had appeared behind Chen Zhao. The shadow slowly formed into a figure. The Grim Reaper. It was the legendary Grim Reaper. Chen Zhao felt it too. He turned around. Blackie, why are you here? I'm here for them. My death sense tells me that they must die. The beautiful woman's face paled in fear. Since she had seen Blackie, she had naturally heard their conversation. But why are you here? Chen Zhao adjusted his collar. Would you believe me if I said I'm lost? Blackie ignored Chen Zhao. He just paced around the basement, waiting for the two to die. Just then, Sax grabbed a bench and tried to use it to push his way out. But one of the living rotten corpse's strips of flesh suddenly turned into a fist. It smashed the bench and stuck to Saxy's arm. Saxy struggled and tried to shake it off. He wanted to throw the strip of flesh away. The corpse's poison seeped into Saxy's arm through his skin. The bone-piercing pain made Saxy struggle even more crazily. But he couldn't get rid of the meat stuck to his arm. Instead, the meat stuck even tighter and climbed up his arm like a snail. This guy is hopeless, Chen Zhao lamented. Just then, the beautiful woman suddenly knelt before Chen Zhao. I beg you, save me. I'll do anything you want me to. My body, my everything, can be yours. Chen Zhao, you have a wife. If you have an affair, I'll tell Fei Lai, Blackie said darkly. Fuck. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I'm not interested in her. I curse you. I curse you to die a horrible death. The beautiful woman roared hysterically. I hope you go to hell after you die. Sorry, going to hell might be the best reward for me. I know many people there, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Chen Zhao chuckled. Oh, you're probably going down there too. I'll give you something. Consider it the fee for dyeing my hair. Chen Zhao walked up to the beautiful woman and tapped her forehead with his finger. A spark drilled into her body, then it seeped out of her skin and returned to Chen Zhao's palm. No one's free, so I'll take care of it. It's mainly because Wes thinks I'm a bit free recently. Okay, that was a good reason. Call your people. They'll be in charge of sending the survivors to the headquarters to be locked up and clean up the scene. When dealing with supernatural criminals, usually, killing them on the spot was to clean up the traces. If they weren't killed on the spot, and the crime was confirmed, they'd kill them directly if the sentence was more than the death penalty. If it was just a small matter that didn't warrant the death penalty, and they weren't killed on the spot, they'd be captured and locked up in the headquarters. President, there's someone with me. Let's be the first. We're at Mingo Building now. When Chen Zhao arrived at Mingo Building, Henry's subordinates were also there. Henry's team was basically doing the dirty work of the supernatural organization, which was to clean up the place. So they weren't surprised by this kind of mission. But this was their first time working together with Chen Zhao. The two went straight to the building's security room and turned off the surveillance equipment. Chen Zhao and the rest went upstairs. It's over $10 million. Make up for the money from the bank robbery last time. Divide the rest between Henry and everyone in this operation. Everyone was overjoyed. They were now in a legitimate profession. Moreover, he could earn extra income as a legitimate profession. Their income wasn't low, but getting so much money in one go was still very happy. This still made them very happy. Henry looked at his men and said, "Marco, I know you've been in contact with some bad things recently. You'd better ban it for me. Otherwise, I'll ask Miss Hellies to send you to her private domain to cure your addiction." Chen Zhao glanced at Marco and asked strangely, "Is Helis still in charge of detoxifying people? Last time, I helped Miss Helis a little. She said that she could fulfill 3 of my wishes." Most of the time, Chen Zhao wouldn't ask about other people's private lives. However, touching drugs was clearly unacceptable. "Marco, I'll give you a month. After a month, I'll take you for a checkup. If there are any traces of drugs left on your body, I'll send you to the farm where I raise monsters. You'll become their food." "Got it, President. I'll try my best." The others felt lucky that they hadn't touched those things. "I'll give you 10 minutes to clean up the traces here," Henry urged. "We'll be busy tonight. After all, we can't earn extra money every time we do an operation." Henry's sweeper department didn't earn much. Most of the time, they could only rely on their salary to support their families. Of course, their salaries weren't low. In Los Angeles, it was far above the average income. They were originally gangsters, so they had many bad habits. Eating, drinking, and gambling were basically normal operations. There were even some who were addicted to drugs. Chen Zhao planned to purify the sweeper department. He didn't care about bad habits like eating, drinking, and gambling. However, drug addiction was too harmful. It could even become a hidden danger. They were all internal members now, so he couldn't kill them. Moreover, they were in contact with internal secrets. He couldn't let them do whatever they wanted. So Chen Zhao planned to force them to detoxify. A few minutes later. "Okay, next stop. Henry, lead the way." With Henry leading the way and Chen Zhao as a guarantee, everything went smoothly. It would be strange if it didn't. What was Chen Zhao's level? What was the level of the power of grace? Although all the members of the power of grace had strange abilities, they were an entire galaxy lower. However, there was a difference of an entire Milky Way galaxy. How could he resist? Henry was only responsible for leading the way. His subordinates went to clean up the scene. They wasted almost all their time on the road. In one night, the dozen or so members of the sweeper squad made hundreds of thousands of dollars each. Apart from Henry, only one of the 9 people survived. Chapter 3094. Have you ever felt despair? Asai's was rather arrogant. In an instant, her body emitted a strong sense of oppression. However, Chen Zhao, Morid, and Scavenger were all unmoved. They weren't affected by Asai's pressure at all. What a joke. This level of pressure was enough to make the supernatural organization retreat? Everyone here had been baptized by dragon might. This level was really not enough. Asai's expression darkened. Vanessa had been by her side for so long. Her power had increased by several levels. But her pressure couldn't shake any of them. Just then, a young man couldn't hold it in anymore and attacked Chen Zhao first. One of the young man's hands froze into an icicle. He swung his fist at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't even turn his head. The icicle on the young man's fist shattered. Then the bones in his arm shattered too. He was sent flying. Asai's pupils constricted. Back off. He's not someone you can handle. Chen Zhao looked Asai's up and down. Show me your power. Asai's arm suddenly swelled like a demon's hand, whose skin had completely split open. She swung it at Chen Zhao. At the same time, an arc of flames swept past. But the flames dissipated before they could even touch Chen Zhao. Demon bloodline? This is a fire demon? But it's not enough. Chen Zhao took a step forward. You can attack it before I reach you. Asai's right arm turned into a demon's hand again. But unlike the red and cracked skin on the left arm, Asai's left arm was covered in pitch-black scales. Terror demon? Chen Zhao was shocked. The same person had two demon bloodlines? Chen Zhao himself had two demon bloodlines, the Glutton bloodline and the King of Wrath bloodline. But it was almost impossible for the two bloodlines to coexist or even be produced. For example, his old friends Zofia and Oris in Hell. Their abitos only inherited the dragon bloodline. But the woman before him actually had two demon bloodlines. Asai's terror demon hand grabbed at Chen Zhao. A ball of black gas tried to bind Chen Zhao. However, the black gas dissipated before it could even touch Chen Zhao. Asai couldn't help but reveal a solemn expression. She withdrew her hand of Balrog and hand of terror. His figure began to change rapidly, turning into the form of a demon. It was a 4-meter-tall demon with a pair of wings on its back, a pair of legs on its head, and dark red skin. A tyrannical demon? 3 demonic bloodlines? Chen Zhao was even more surprised. No, not demonic bloodlines. Did you borrow demonic power? The tyrannical demon clenched its claws, and 2 beams of red light condensed in its palms, turning into 2 large red swords. Everyone from the paradise of the fallen looked at Asai's in shock. Asai's exuded an aura that made them feel uneasy. Vanessa sensed that Asai's transformation was similar to her own. But it was also different. She couldn't tell what was different. Chapter 3095. The scavengers in Morad stared at Asai's in disbelief. Chen Zhao lifted his eyelids and pointed his right index finger up. A small black ball formed between his fingers. Morad and the others took a step back. They all knew Chen Zhao's move. After all, Chen Zhao had used it more than once. Even if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they'd heard about it from their colleagues in the supernatural organization. But Asai's didn't sense the approaching danger at all. Her face was full of confidence, as if she was proud of her wit. Chen Zhao waved his finger lightly, and the black ball shot toward Asai's. Asai suddenly lowered his head. Everyone looked at him too. Asai saw a huge hole from his shoulder to his chest. It was at least 20 to 30 centimeters wide. Suddenly, Asai heard a loud sound behind him. Looking back, he realized that half of the mansion and the manor were gone. The mountain that the manor was on was also gone. It was completely bare, as if something had pierced through it. Asai didn't make a sound. He fell to the ground. Everyone felt chills down their spines. They hadn't gained power for long. They were still in a state where their abilities were invincible. And they were still in a state where they thought that their abilities were invincible. But now no one dared to think like that anymore. Vanessa trembled all over. She'd hoped that Asai could defeat Chen Zhao. At least in her eyes, Asai was definitely very, very powerful. But now she finally understood the difference. So please cooperate. Based on the crimes you've committed before, your sentence ranges from half a year to 3 years. But if you dare to resist, we have the right to execute you on the spot. Please don't test our patience, Moritz said. What happened next was simple. The youngsters didn't dare to resist at all. Chen Zhao looked at Vanessa. Tell me, why aren't you dead? I remember Blackie took your soul away. I don't know. Vanessa looked at Chen Zhao in fear. She'd thought that she could get some information from Chen Zhao. But now, it seemed that Chen Zhao didn't know either. The night's operation ended. Chen Zhao found Blackie. Blackie, do you remember the woman we met in the sewers? Yes. Why? She's not dead. Oh. Blackie's reaction was very flat. Your reaction? You already knew? I'm a little surprised, but not too surprised. What do you mean? I'm surprised that she's still alive. I thought she'd be killed by a zombie. Aren't you going to get her soul? No, there are 2 souls in her body, or rather twin souls. When she and her twin sister were in her mother's womb, her sister died, and her sister's soul has always been in her body. Generally speaking, if there are no accidents, her sister's soul will sleep forever, until the end of her life. However, if there is a death calamity, then her sister's soul is very likely to block a death calamity for her. I call this form the silver scale form, but I can only use it when I'm emotional, and this form will make me lose control of my emotions. You can only use it if you lose control of your emotions. This means that you don't have enough magic power. You need emotional stimulation to activate your potential. As he spoke, he tapped Vanessa's forehead with his finger. Vanessa immediately felt a tremendous amount of power flow into her body. Chapter 3096. Vanessa didn't need to transform at all. Her body began to be covered with silver scales, and her figure became taller and more slender. However, the scales didn't cover her completely. Only a few parts were covered. For example, her forehead, shoulders, half of her face, chest, and thighs were all covered in obvious silver scales. Sharp silver horns grew out of her forehead, and her hair became thick and long. It didn't look like hair, but more like an extension of muscle tissue. This was Vanessa's first time transforming so thoroughly. She'd transformed twice in the past, but they were all passive transformations. After transforming, she would only have a few characteristics. Chen Zhao was surprised too. It was another demon he didn't know. Her aura was completely different from the previous two demon forms. But it was also somewhat similar. Chen Zhao guessed that this form and the previous two forms should be related to before and after advancement. In this form, Vanessa was clearly much stronger than the Mad Demon and Dark Soul forms. Attack me. Vanessa gulped. She didn't really want to fight. More accurately, she didn't want to die. Don't worry, I won't fight back. Vanessa felt the power in her body. There were also memories that didn't belong to her, that surged into her brain along with the power. These memories taught her how to use this power. There were also scenes of slaughter and death. Vanessa waved her arms. Rays of demonic power gathered into swords and shot at Jin Si. This kind of power was rare, condensing power into a shape. Generally speaking, demons relied on nothing more than their powerful physique and terrifying magic power to assist them in battle. Apart from a few races that focused on pure magic, most demons practiced both combat and magic. They were also more inclined towards close combat. Very few people attacked like Vanessa did. Vanessa's attack was very sharp. When she shot her sword at Chen Zhao, dozens of swords had already formed around her. Of course, this kind of attack was useless against Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao waved his hand, and Vanessa took a few steps back. Are there any other attacks? Vanessa nodded. She did the same thing again. But this time, there weren't swords around her. Instead, there were many silver-white balls. Chen Zhao allowed the balls to hit him. The physical damage wasn't bad. They also had strong corrosive power. The balls also seemed to have a shock effect. If it had been someone else, they would have been sent flying by this silvery white ball, or even shattered into pieces. What were the characteristics of these silvery white spheres? It was as if Vanessa had used her power to create it. It was too strange. Chen Zhao had never seen a demon with this special power before. If it weren't for the demonic aura on her, Chen Zhao would even suspect that Vanessa was a demon. Then Chen Zhao had Vanessa use a few of her racial abilities. It was an eye-opener for Chen Zhao. It was not how strong she was. It was just that the characteristics of the magic she used were different from most of the demons. Chen Zhao kept Vanessa, planning to continue his research on her. Because of his curiosity, Vanessa wasn't sent back to the glass prison in the basement. At this moment, an unfamiliar car arrived outside the headquarters. It was Zhang Tianyi who got off the car. Chen Zhao didn't expect Zhang Tianyi to come to the headquarters. Chen Zhao walked to the door. Old Zhang, why are you here? I'm here to see your supernatural organization. Zhang Tianyi glanced around. I have an invitation. What invitation? The International Supernatural Competition. Are you sure it's for me? Chen Zhao remembered that Zhang Tianyi had rejected him during the Battle of Holy Glory. Zhang Tianyi shook his head. It definitely wasn't for Chen Zhao. What a joke. If someone at his level participated, the organizers wouldn't even need to host it. They could just give the trophy to Chen Zhao. There would be no accidents. Even if Zhang Tianyi, Baifla, and 23rd Blood Mary worked together, they wouldn't be able to stop Chen Zhao from winning. If it was a life-and-death battle, they still had ways to restrict Chen Zhao. But how would they restrict him in the arena? Would they use the seal to seal Chen Zhao? In terms of pure combat ability, Chen Zhao could crush everyone else. No, I'm going to be the judge. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Are you kidding me? What kind of competition needs me to be the judge? The highest level. Apart from people like you and me, there are basically no other restrictions. Chen Zhao shook his head. I'll pass. I'm not interested. Don't. I'm only looking for you because I don't have enough people. Dragon Tiger Mountain is the organizer? No, just my influence isn't enough. It's jointly organized by the 6 recognized organizations in the world, Zhang Tianyi said. Dragon Tiger Mountain, Cross Sect, Scarlet Church, Wutai Mountain, Kunlun, and Japanese Inyang Sect. Because it's the highest level competition, it's hard to judge even for people at the same level as the contestants. That's why the lowest standard for a judge is Shangqing. Even fire worship isn't one of the 6? In terms of scale, fire worship isn't weaker than any other sect, but its influence in the world is still a bit lacking. How many judges are there now? Me, Blood Mary, John Bifla, Spiritual Master Wuxia, Spiritual Master Qingping, and an old shaman wizard you don't know. That's 7 people. It's enough to maintain world peace. What else do you need me for? Chen Zhao said, rolling his eyes. Chen Zhao knew 6 of the 7. He'd only met old John a few times and wasn't familiar with him. But in terms of strength, he was definitely strong. There was also the old shaman wizard. Chen Zhao hadn't seen him before, but Zhang Tianyi could put him together with the others. He was definitely at the same level as them. Do you know how many people are participating in the World Supernatural Competition? No. How many? More than 2,000 from the other 4 continents. 2,000? Didn't you say it's the highest level competition? How come there are still 2,000? Do you know how many cultivators there are in the world? More than 14 million. It's not too much to pick 2,000 experts out of 14 million, right? That many? Actually, there are some people on the fringe of the spiritual world who know about its existence. They're also considered spiritualists. I think there are more than 10 million. 4 continents. There are no Americans among the 2,000? If you're willing, you can decide the number of Americans. I'm Chinese, not American. Anyway, you're doing well in America and you're strong. Is there any benefit? Zhang Tianyi was speechless. You don't want your subordinates to participate? Hearing that, Zhang Tianyi couldn't help but glance at Chen Zhao. It was not without reason that Chen Zhao was the first to break through to ascendance. These veteran peerless experts might not even be able to fight once a year. He might not even meet an enemy worthy of going all out in 10 years. But in a year or 2, Chen Zhao had encountered many strong cultivators. Tempering oneself in battle allowed one to improve faster than any other kind of cultivation. Through the accumulation of battle after battle, he constantly used his own strength to confirm his own path, and the enemy's path to confirm his own path. It would be strange if he didn't grow quickly with this method. He also wanted to fight like Chen Zhao, but when he reached the Shangqing realm, he was already more than 100 years old. He couldn't compare to Chen Zhao. His mind and body were both at the peak of his life, and he was an enhancer. If he was an ordinary enhancer, he would age more easily when he was old. His body would age more easily than normal people, and the illnesses of his youth would follow. But Chen Zhao was different. At Chen Zhao's level, his body had been reborn many times. His body had long reached the invincible Vajra level. Time couldn't corrode his body. The accumulation of time would only make him stronger. Even after 200 or 300 years, when his lifespan came to an end, his body probably wouldn't decay. This was the scariest thing. He had enough time and ability to adjust his body's state. At Zhang Tianyi's current age, even if he spent another 20 or 30 years adjusting his body's state, he probably wouldn't have much time left. But Chen Zhao had enough time. No, his greatest advantage was that he had reached this level at a young age. He knew the mysteries of the human body better than others. He could continue to grow stronger in his lifetime. This was also an advantage that Zhang Tianyi and the other top experts of the older generation couldn't reach. Especially in this era, for others, there were good and bad times during the spiritual qi tide. But for Chen Zhao, it was the best era. During the period of spiritual energy exhaustion, he would be able to reach the pinnacle. And in the era of the spiritual qi tide, his strength definitely wouldn't stay the same. When will the competition be held? Where is it? Baikou Islands, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It starts in late June. A deserted island? No, it's a private island. It's very large and has very complete facilities. Is there a place for a yacht to dock? Are you sure you want to take a yacht there? Why? Is there a problem? There are many submerged reefs around the Baiku Islands. Big ships can't pass through. Then how do we go? By plane? Is there an airport there? There's a small airport. It's the private airport of the island's owner, but I still don't recommend you to take a plane. Why? Chapter 3098. Boss, Navikalina said. Mr. Bingerly from Northern Gravity said that your plane has been modified. It's been tested 3 times and has a range of 2,000 kilometers. It's ready for delivery. When can you pick it up? Do I need to pick it up myself? Aren't they responsible for delivering it to my door? Of course you can, but what they mean is that they want you to visit their company. At the same time, if you find any dissatisfaction with the aircraft you ordered before delivery, you can still make corrections. However, if you deliver it, I'm afraid it will be very troublesome. Visit their company? Yes, Northern Gravity's factory is in Minnesota. Sure. Do I need to arrange a time with them? They said that you can tell them when you go. You're welcome anytime. Navikalina basically repeated Lang's words exactly as they were. Nevertheless, it was understandable that Lang would suck up to Chen Zhao. After all, he could easily buy a plane with $1 billion in cash. Moreover, he was buying it with cash. One could imagine how terrifying his purchasing power was. There weren't many rich people like Chen Zhao in America. That was why Lang would suck up to Chen Zhao so passionately. It wasn't a one-time deal. Chen Zhao could maintain a friendship with a billionaire. If he needed planes in the future, he'd probably buy their products again. During the weekend, Chen Zhao's family, all the kids, including Zephra, Portia and Navikalina, went to Minnesota. When Chen Zhao's family saw the S-10, they were all dumbfounded. Even Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. The previous few times, Chen Zhao had only seen pictures or videos. He'd never seen the entire plane. It was twice as big as a regular passenger plane. The nose was like a big-headed doll, but it was streamlined and beautiful. It didn't stand out too much. According to Chen Zhao's request, a huge family photo had been painted on it. After entering the plane, the interior was divided into 2 levels. The entire plane was decorated with solid wood. The dining room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and washroom were all basic facilities. There was also an entertainment area, such as a bar, movie theater, game room, and even a children's room. From Chen Zhao's perspective, the interior of the plane was definitely worth its price of 300 million. The interior space was more than 3,000 square meters, allowing the designers to design the interior as they pleased. It would not be an exaggeration to say that this was a castle flying in the sky. What did 3,000 square meters mean? Currently, most of the villas were less than a third of this area. Bingo Lang personally acted as the tour guide, introducing the various functions of the plane. Mr. Chen, that's basically all the functions of this big guy. Now let's talk about its shortcomings. First, the fuel consumption. The S-10's fuel consumption per hour is as high as 8 tons, and this is under the current support of the new technology. If it were 10 years ago, the fuel consumption would reach 20 tons per hour. This is because the S-10 is too big. Secondly, the speed. Most commercial flights go at 800 kilometers per hour, but the S-10's normal speed is only 600 kilometers per hour. What about the voyage? Seeing that Chen Zhao didn't question the speed and fuel consumption, Bingreli Lang relaxed a little. Then he added, "Don't worry about the range. The best thing about the S-10 is its silence and range. Its maximum range can reach up to 30,000 kilometers, but it carries 400 tons of fuel, which will increase the fuel consumption. With a maximum range of 30,000 kilometers, there was basically no place in the world that could not be reached. In fact, 10,000 kilometers was enough for the plane to go anywhere. At most, it would only need to refuel midway, but the 30,000 kilometer flight would not even need to refuel. Chen Zhao was very satisfied with the distance. Secondly, he liked the S-10's silence effect. On the way back, Chen Zhao's family took their first private plane. The pilot and flight attendant were assigned by Northern Gravity Company. Chen Zhao's family really enjoyed the process. It took about 7 hours to travel 3,000 kilometers in the sky, but in these 7 hours, everyone enjoyed it very much. The plane landed near the Supernatural Organization. It was a private airport that Chen Zhao had funded. The private airport wasn't finished yet, but it was more than half done. The runway and warehouse could be used. Some facilities were completed too. It was easy to take off and land 1 or 2 planes. Chen, I heard that you're hiring private plane pilots? Chen Zhao posted a recruitment notice on the website. He didn't expect that the first person to call him would be Fantas. Yeah, do you have anyone you know to introduce to me? What do you think of me? You know how to fly a plane. Wait, I don't want a helicopter pilot. I want a large commercial plane. I know. I've already seen your recruitment notice. I think I can do it, Fantas said. I used to be a fighter pilot for the Air Force, with more than 2,000 hours of flight time. After I retired, I trained as a civil airliner pilot. I was a vice captain of a civil airliner for a year, and a captain for half a year. Chen Zhao didn't expect Fantas' personal information to be so powerful. You don't want to be Steven's bodyguard anymore? I need more money. I told you last time that Evan has been eating a lot lately. You also promised to help me when you're free, but I haven't seen you yet. Okay, I'll go now. Chen Zhao really forgot about Fantas' request last time. When he reached Fantas' house, Chen Zhao finally knew how abnormal Fantas was when he said that Evan's reaction was abnormal. Evan's body was like an adult cow. It was frighteningly huge. Weighing more than 800 kilograms, he was like a monster. The originally dark fur actually had white veins on it. Chun, do you think Evan's condition is normal? Fantas didn't even dare to take Evan out now. If he left the house, he would probably be beaten to death by the police like a monster. Evan was also a beast. It was hard for him to get used to this kind of indoors life. Moreover, Evan had been eating a little too much recently. What did it mean to eat 100 kilograms of meat every meal? In other words, he had to eat as much as 2 adults a day. This was a terrifying amount of food. Eating more than 1/8 of his body weight meant that he was still growing. I don't even dare to take Evan out now. Last time I took him out at night, we ran into a couple having sex in the wild. They were almost scared to death. When we left, I even called the ambulance for them. Chen Zhao was silent for a while. If it's not convenient here, you can stay at my house for now. Chapter 3099. Is there no way to solve Evan's current situation? Yes, but he's not sick. He's evolving. Are you sure you want me to interrupt his evolution? Evan was clearly affected by the change in the spiritual energy. The enormous spiritual energy didn't just affect humans. Animals would also change. Interrupting Evan's evolution was like interrupting the growth of an underage child. He would forever be a child, or even become a baby again. Regardless of whether the other party was human or not, it was still cruel. If Famutus wasn't truly in love with Evan, he would have agreed without hesitation to get rid of the troublesome Evan. Evan was evolving into an unconventional creature, but she didn't lose her mind. On the contrary, she was smarter than before. Based on her previous personality, she would have been unable to hold it in after being locked in the house for so long. She would have rushed out to cause trouble. But now, even if she felt uncomfortable, she would endure it and not cause trouble for Fantas. Under Chen Zhao's touch, Evan rubbed against Chen Zhao's palm comfortably. Then let Evan go to your place. Fantas had no other choice, unless she locked Evan up forever. Plus, she didn't know when Evan's growth would end. Now let's talk about your job. Did you talk to Steven about it? I told you yesterday, Fantas said. What was his reaction? He scolded you and said you're a jerk for stealing his woman without saying a word. Then I'm relieved. Soon, Fantas and Chen Zhao agreed to be Chen Zhao's personal pilot. Chen Zhao gave her the highest salary in the industry. Chen Zhao only had one request for her, and that was to be on call. Chen Zhao gave Fantas such a high salary because people from the supernatural organization needed to use her occasionally. And if someone from the supernatural society was on the plane, who knew what would happen? If something supernatural happened, Fantas would at least be in contact with it. Plus, Fantas was someone he knew. Chen Zhao didn't need to worry that she would spread it around. As for the flight attendants, Chen Zhao already had an idea. In Blackie's space-time crevice, the inferior demons had to implement family planning. Therefore, the inferior demons could be the flight attendants. Plus, they didn't take up space. It could also be very discreet. Moreover, he wouldn't allow strangers to board his own plane. If not, the pilot must have a pilot's license. Chen Zhao even wanted the underlings to learn how to fly a plane. Chen Zhao's yacht would be delivered at the end of the year. Now, everyone at home was discussing whether they should take a plane or a yacht for the New Year's holiday. Of course, in terms of comfort, a yacht was far better than a plane. However, the places that the yacht could go were limited. After all, the places that it could go to were all coastal cities and scenic spots. Especially with the speed of the yacht, if it went too far away. Chapter 3100. Today, Chen Zhao went to pick Fei Lai up from work. At a turn, Fei Lai saw a man in black standing on the side of the road. However, as Chen Zhao drove past, Fei Lai couldn't see the man clearly. At the next intersection, Fei Lai saw the man in black pass by the car window again. Chen, is someone in the same industry looking for you? Fei Lai asked. If Fei Lai could see it, Chen Zhao could see it too. At the third intersection, Chen Zhao stopped the car. Chen Zhao rolled down the window and looked at the man standing on the side of the road. You're looking for me? Chen Zhao asked. The man stepped forward. I heard that you're one of the candidates for this year's World Supernatural Competition? You're in charge of the American region's selection? Chen Zhao didn't know how this news had spread. Anyway, Chen Zhao hadn't spread this news of his own accord. It was probably Zhang Tianyi, or the organizers who spread the news. Chen Zhao nodded. If you want to participate, come find me tomorrow. With that, Chen Zhao rolled up the window. However, the window seemed to be stuck by something. Chen Zhao looked up at the man in black, dissatisfied. You should maintain your respect for me, Chen Zhao said, annoyed. You also have to maintain your respect for me, the man said in the same tone. Chen Zhao looked up. I hate people like you who have no ability, but still act high and mighty. I'll say the same thing back to you, the man replied. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. Good. Then you're eliminated. You, bang. Without any warning, the man left his spot and crashed into the wall behind him. After a few minutes, the man finally climbed up, his face full of anger. You asterisk shoal. Don't think this is over. The man looked at the surrounding people and roared. What are you looking at? Do you want to die? The man in black cursed and left. In a bar, the man in black walked in. There were a few other people in the bar, forming a table. Apart from this table, there were no other customers. There were no waiters either. Only the bearded boss was leaning against the counter. Just then, the boss looked at the man at the door. Simmons, how is it? Did you find the candidate? The man in black named Simmons looked like a jinx. Ignoring the bearded boss's question, he went straight to the table. Simmons, it looks like your selection didn't go very smoothly. That damned selector. I can't even communicate with him. He's just a bastard. Simmons growled. I really don't understand why the Big Six would give the right to select America to that guy. The right to select should belong to us, South America, and not the people of this land. This place is filled with a bunch of incompetent guys. Could it be that the Big Six is looking for a bunch of useless people to liven up the atmosphere of the competition? Hey, before you say that, you better not say it in front of me, the bearded boss said unhappily. There was an unwritten rule in the World Supernatural Competition. If the selector was defeated, then the challenger could replace him. This had only happened once, and that was during the first World Supernatural Competition. From then on, the selectors and judges would be powerful enough to be recognized by the world. However, there had never been a selector from the American region in the past. If the spiritualists from the American region wanted to participate, they had to go to other continents to find selectors from other continents. However, it was different this time. They all felt that the selectors from the American region were just there to make up the numbers. Chapter 3101. Fei Lai vaguely felt that Chen Zhao seemed to have moved. Narrowing her eyes, she reached for her phone by the window to check the time. However, Fei Lai's hand was stopped by Chen Zhao. It's still early, Chen Zhao said softly. Go back to sleep. I'll go downstairs and find something to eat. Okay, don't eat too much tonight, Fei Lai whispered. Although Chen Zhao wouldn't get fat, Fei Lai still reminded him out of habit. Chen Zhao stood at the door of the manor, and looked at the uninvited guest. Are you sure you're not here to die? Chen Zhao looked at Simmons with a dark expression. Looking for me at this time? Are you sure you're not looking for death? Chen Zhao stared at Simmons with a dark expression. Especially when the guy had come to his door. You're the one who wants to die. Do you think you can talk to me like this just because the Big Six gave you power? Simmons stared at Chen Zhao coldly. His gaze was like that of a poisonous snake, making Chen Zhao very uncomfortable. Chen Zhao looked around. You brought helpers? Come out. There's no point in hiding. Just then, a few people walked out from the darkness. It was the people from the bar. The skinny old man walked out with a chuckle. Sir, we're not with him. Simmons glanced at the old man. Aren't you here to take advantage? Yes, I'm here to take advantage, Seth yelled. Only Kendo waved his hand. I'm not. Kendo looked at Chen Zhao with some fear. He had been in the South American spiritual world for a long time. But in the past 2 years, he had returned to LA and opened that bar. He knew some things about LA. No matter who came here, they had to be careful. From what he knew, a few people who were more famous and powerful than him had come to LA and caused trouble. Then there was no then. They hadn't been here for more than 24 hours. Another theory was that LA was ruled by an Asian. Kendo had come with some ideas, but after seeing Chen Zhao, he suddenly lost them. Standing next to Kendo, the woman who was enveloped in a cold aura said, I'm here to take the test. I don't care which one of you becomes a candidate, but don't get in the way of me participating in the World Supernatural Contest. Chen Zhao glanced at the two. He didn't care what they said. Then who's first? Simmons stepped forward. You ambushed me during the day. You won't have a chance this time. Simmons attacked first. He condensed a beam of purple light in his palms and pointed at Chen Zhao. Listen to my command. You won't be able to breathe for 10 minutes. Everyone was shocked. Simmons had actually used an ultimate move on Chen Zhao. Simmons' magic system was very special and advanced. It was even close to the laws. Of course, it wasn't a law. In the words of the trade, his magic system was a decree. It was similar to the laws of nature, and could not be exempted. He could give orders to everything, even his enemies. I'm so scared. Just then, a girl's voice sounded from behind. Everyone saw a few kids appear behind Chen Zhao. However, the children didn't show any signs of fear. Instead, they looked excited. It's not game time now. Go to sleep. Chen Zhao glared at Didi. Didi, did you wake them up? I know you played games until midnight again. Uncle, they were too noisy and woke us up. DDRA directly pushed all the blame to Simmons and the others. Yes, we were awakened by them. A bunch of bastards. Die, all of you. Simmons said ferociously. The insufferably arrogant Simmons died just like that? Maybe. Chen Zhao shrugged. I threw him a few 100,000 meters into the ozone layer. He's already turned into space dust. If he can be reborn at that level, I'll give him a spot in the competition. That's right. Everyone was rolling their eyes. They finally understood what was going on. Why did the Sixth Assembly give him the right to choose? Even now, they still felt like they were in a dream. When did such a monster appear in North America? Okay, it's your turn. Take advantage of the situation. Chen Zhao looked at the skinny old man and Seth. The two glanced at each other. They both regretted their previous decision. No, it wasn't just regret. They regretted it so much that their intestines turned green. Sir, we admit defeat. No, there's no option to admit defeat. Since you're here to take advantage of the situation, it means that you're prepared. Sir, can I take one move? The skinny old man asked Chen Zhao. You're confident you can take one move? I'm confident I won't die. Chen Zhao realized that there wasn't much fear in the skinny old man's eyes. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt that there was something wrong with the skinny old man. The next moment, Chen Zhao suddenly grabbed the old man. The skinny little old man began to scream in agony, but Chen Zhao covered his mouth. The old man struggled even more violently. This went on for more than a minute. Then, Chen Zhao casually threw the old man onto the ground. The skinny old man panted heavily. He dared to ask to take one move from Chen Zhao so confidently. It was because this wasn't his real body. There was only a bit of his soul in this old man's body. so there was no point in killing him. Chen Zhao only gave the soul fragment a bit of a hard blow. It was his punishment. The soul fragment and the main soul were connected. Their senses were also connected. Therefore, the pain that this physical body felt was also felt by the main body of the soul. It wouldn't be difficult to kill him. Just hold this soul fragment and let him torment it for 3 to 5 days. Even if it was the main soul, it would be destroyed. Or if he took the soul fragment, it wouldn't be hard to trace it back to the source. Most importantly, Chen Zhao didn't have the time to waste with him. If his real body was here, Chen Zhao would kill him with one slap. If it was a strenuous and thankless task, Chen Zhao would just give him a small punishment. The skinny old man couldn't say anything. He knew that Chen Zhao had seen through him. But since he wasn't dead, it could only mean that Chen Zhao didn't want to kill him. Suddenly, a black shadow came over and grabbed at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised a hand and grabbed the jaw that was coming at him. The black shadow was Seth. At the moment, he'd turned into a fierce bear. Druid? No, he didn't have any natural aura. Fuck, this guy is a foreign monster. It's a bear demon.